Hello, friends. It is Wednesday, July 15th, and wanted to send out a message of encouragement and just checking in, making sure everyone's doing okay. Crazy that it's been 4 months since we've last been together, but just want to commend all of you for adapting to this new normal for now, anyway, and being able to just continue to find ways to be the church, to love your neighbors, to share the good news during this season. So I just want to thank you for ways we've heard in which you've been doing that, and encourage you to keep it up, because I think people right now are just continuing to be so just in need of hope and of good news and of encouragement. So I just hope that you can be encouraged to continue that good work. So for today, I just wanted to offer up a word. I've been thinking about the whole idea of kind of when we find ourselves in places that we didn't really expect. Maybe sometimes that's because of our own choosing. Again, maybe you chose a job, maybe you chose a relationship, whatever it is that you decided to engage in, or maybe you find yourself in a kind of an unexpected place by no fault of your own, such as in the case of a global pandemic. Obviously, none of us are to blame for that, but here we are. And so, in either case, I've just been thinking about how God remains faithful through it all. In the case of a pandemic like this, or a situation where it's not your fault that you ended up in that particular situation, I think it's just so helpful to know that God is in control, that God is faithful, that God will not leave us nor forsake us in those times, and to know that He is not the one who thrust you into that either, but He's walking with you through it. He's in that valley with you. So I think that's so important. I think for us, as we continue to move through this pandemic and all the uncertainty of it, to know that God is right there. He's walking with us is such a helpful and encouraging reminder. But then on the other end of the spectrum, again, like I said, is those times when maybe you stepped into something, and then you're struggling with that decision. And I think it's especially hard when there are times where you feel like you initially felt like God was leading you into something, and then maybe you're starting to question that and starting to wonder, is this really where I'm supposed to be? Is this who I'm supposed to be with? Whatever the scenario and the situation is, that can be really challenging, because you can think, well, did I totally misread God in that? Or you might just be frustrated and say, well, God, why did you lead me into that in the first place? You might be frustrated in this pandemic saying, God, why did this have to happen? Couldn't you stop it? Sure, God could bring it to an end. Again, I believe God's working through this that there's still a lot He wants to teach us. So rather than just bringing it to an end quickly, are we learning the lessons that He wants us to learn? I think that's an important thing. Like the Israelites in the wilderness, yeah, God could have just taken them out of it, but He wanted to teach them and grow them and have them learn a lot before they entered the promised land. And there were some hard lessons there. So I think that's the case in desert wilderness seasons, or just challenging seasons, seasons that just seem really dry and barren. God is at work. It's often really hard to see His hand in it, and it's a real challenge to trust Him in the midst of those times. But it's an important season to live out our faith and to really trust God in the midst of it all. So, again, for me, I wanted to think about that, and like I say, especially if you've been in a situation where you felt like, okay, God's leading me into something, and you're really convinced of that, and then you get into it, or you've been in it for a while, and then you're like, maybe that was more me than God. That's a hard piece to discern. That idea of call can be really challenging. Sometimes you just know in your gut, and you're like, this is, and in your heart, and you say, this is where God is leading me. Other times it might not be so clear, and you might feel more on the positive end than the negative. Like, yeah, I should pursue this. And so then you're like, well, I feel like that's God behind it. But I know I've had situations in my life where then I got into it and I'm like, if I'm honest, that was probably more me than God. Here's the amazing thing though. I guess this is what I really wanted to focus on. No matter what situation you're in, even if it was more your own doing than God's doing, God still shows up. And I think that's amazing. For me, after my tough first call, I went into, we moved back to Wisconsin. I took a job as a children's director for 6 months until Marissa had back surgery and I stepped down. But right away, I knew this wasn't the right job for me, not because I don't love kids, I do. But I wasn't functioning as a pastor. And so I knew right away, like, this wasn't the right thing. It was a healthy church, healthy staff, all those things. But I realized pretty quickly that it was more me just saying I need to get into a new position, and I kind of jumped too quickly. And then when I stepped down because of Marissa's back surgery and because I just knew I wasn't the right person for that role, that was really hard. That was a really dry, barren wilderness season for me of saying, first of saying, well, God, why did you lead me into that? And then realizing, okay, I don't think he did. It was me. So then I had to wrestle with, okay, is God just going to say, well, you made your bed, now lie in it, you're on your own? No, God showed up in an amazing way. I had time to be a stay-at-home dad. We lived in Wisconsin in a small town near a lake, and we had baby turtles that would hatch and come across our driveway. And Emmaus was little. Grayson was just a newborn, or was very young there too. And then we had Aubrey there. And I mean, it was this amazing place for this season of waiting prior to me coming here to Emmanuel. God provided in these amazing ways where that was one of our favorite seasons actually, because of just what a cool place it was to be, especially for our kids. And so again, God could have abandoned me and said, well, you chose this on your own. You thought it was me. It wasn't, clearly. So I'm going to just leave you for a while until you come back to my will. No, instead God said, okay, I'm going to still show up. And that just humbled me so much and blessed me so much. And I'm really grateful for that. So a verse or two verses that came to mind. I love these verses, but I think they really speak into this. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 say this: trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Just an important reminder that I think we're always wanting to understand, why am I in this season? Why are we in the midst of this pandemic? Why am I in this job or in this relationship or in this situation, whatever it is? And we can try to understand it. Well, if we're just leaning on our own understanding, ultimately we're going to get further frustrated and disappointed and discouraged. But if we say, all right, I'm just going to trust in the Lord with all my heart, and I'm going to believe that he has good things in store for me, that he's at work, even in the midst of all this, and then trying to say, well, God, what are you trying to teach me? God, what are you trying to teach us amidst this difficult season? If we're too quick to try to rush through it or to rush back or whatever it is, I think we miss a lot. God has us on a path, and he's walking with us on that path. And we just need to really be open and receptive to what he might want to teach us. So I just want to encourage you today, for all of us, I can speak collectively with this pandemic, try to lean into God and say, all right, Lord, what do you want to teach me in this season? What do you want to teach us as a church in this season? Let's realize that you haven't abandoned us nor forsaken us, that you are right here walking with us, and you're at work for our good, even if at times that's painful, that you're working. So help us be attentive to what you want to teach us. And then, aside from the pandemic, if on a personal level you're kind of finding yourself stuck or struggling with where you're at, or with situations in your life, same thing. Rather than just trying to understand it all, say, okay, God, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you're at work in this. And what is it you want to teach me? What do I still need to learn? How do I still need to grow before I'll be ready to be moved out of this and into something else? And then when that door opens, when God opens it, we have to be ready and willing to step through it, and that's hard sometimes. That takes courage, but I think we need to be able to do that. So I just want to encourage you with that today. Like I say, I think for all of us, hopefully that's helpful on the pandemic level. But my hope and prayer is that maybe if there are some of you who are struggling with that whole concept on a personal level, aside from the pandemic, that hopefully that's helpful as well. So I just want to say God bless you all. Uh, keep plugging away, keep loving your neighbors, keep finding opportunities to share the good news of Jesus Christ, and just keep trusting in Him. Amidst these uncertain times, know that God is faithful, God can be trusted, and God will see us through. So, God bless you, friends.